Okay, so by way of introduction, I'm Ebony. I'm the founder of House of Perception. As kind of said, we are a Sydney-based social media agency. I've had 6 years in the industry and have worked with probably the most well-known brands would be Messina, the gelato shop, Koala, Strand Bags, Twisties, Casetify, and L'Oreal. The reason I started my company was because I hated the cookie cutter approach that most agencies take with businesses' socials. I didn't deem it fair because everyone was just copy and pasting what they were doing for clients and then expecting to see results when that's not how socials works at all. Everything is very individualized and you can't, just copy and paste. So I'm going to run you through, I guess, how we can go about doing that for yourselves. Um, the biggest mistake that founders make when it comes to social media is that they think it exists to sell. It's not 100% true. When it comes to organic socials, we're there to, generate attention, build a connection, and show people who you are and what you stand for. It is a very time consuming and can be quite painful, but it's vital in this day and age because your customers, whoever they are, they're all online. So the biggest way I like to explain it is we're going from attention, trust, demand, and then sales. You can't go straight to sales and expecting to sell without doing the first few steps. These all do work together all of the time. So you can't just be focusing on doing attention pieces of content for X amount of months, then moving into trust, then moving into, creating demand and then generating a sale. They're working together constantly, no matter what stage you're at in your business's journey.
Awesome. And Ebony, just on this, I guess maybe to give maybe some like insights into real founder journeys or real, I guess, business journeys there. Like what do you feel like is maybe a timeline, or is it sort of, how long is a piece of string, but where you go from that attention through to sales?
It's so hard, because it's so different for everyone. But say, for example, one of my clients, they were making zero money. They're an e-com, like product-based business. They were making no money whatsoever. They were just posting anything whenever with no real thought behind anything. And then one day I posted UGC style video, which I've actually got, so I will show you once we get to the end of the presentation. But I posted that. It hit 1 million views on Instagram and it completely changed the trajectory of their business. And that was within maybe 3 months of them operating. So really there's no one size fits all approach or one definitive answer when it comes to how long you should spend in each. But they all, like, even now with the same company, we're still like in the attention phase, creating that attention style content, always have that trust, and then they're continuously making sales. So it all works together in this nice ecosystem, if you will. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it does make sense for sure. Thank you.
In terms of what it can do for you, this little screenshot I've got here is from that same company that I was speaking about. Organic is a lot harder to measure than paid. You can't see, cost per acquisition or your ROAS or anything like that. But what it can do is it's crazy. I like to say it's like going to the gym, and the consistency that you put in at the gym. You're not instantly going to see a payoff, but once you keep, showing up consistently, the payoff is usually bigger than expected. The two biggest things it can do is generate brand affiliation and then global distribution. When it comes to brand affiliation, I love to say, what's the difference? If there was no budget, what's the difference between why someone would choose a Porsche over a Toyota? And that comes down to the psychological attachment that we build to a brand. And with so much competition in every industry, that's your biggest weapon. And that obviously comes from showing up, creating a connection with your audience, showcasing who you are and what you stand for. And over time, you start to build a connection with your ideal audience, and that brand affiliation becomes super strong. And then the other side is global distribution. Social media is crazy. Like anyone from any side of the globe can open TikTok or Instagram and see a piece of content that you've shared. And so because of that, its distribution power is honestly unmatched. Again, Tanky, the client that I was just talking about, they were making zero money. They were just operating locally in Australia, and we're launching into the US with them next week. So it's huge. And then plans to move on to Europe and everywhere else. And that's literally just from one video that we posted that went incredibly well. But again, it's just about that consistency and showing up. But the results that it can reach is just, yeah, it blows me away. And I've been in the industry for 6 years and I still get shocked by it all.
Like building
In
muscle
terms of,
over time.
yeah, literally, it really is. It's crazy. In terms of what the landscape looks like in this day and age, obviously everyone's online. We're not watching TV shows anymore. No free to air, I should say. We're obviously all on the subscription models, but people aren't Googling. People are going to TikTok. People often say that TikTok is the new Google, which is why it operates as a search engine. People are discovering brands through creators. So back in the day, we used to get those pamphlets, say from like Big W and like the letterbox, where we'd see, what was new in. We're not doing that anymore. We can see everything online through creators, through the brand account itself. And I'd love to say that I could tell you exactly what's going to work for you and that it's going to be exactly how it is in 3 months' time, but it's not. It's ever changing. And I think the biggest reflection of that is the way that we are consuming content. When socials first came out, it was all about likes and comments. Now we don't care about that. We don't take that into consideration. It is all about shares, saves, watch times, because we're all existing in the DMs. We're all like ghosts. And I think if you have a think about your own consuming behavior, you're probably seeing like a reel or a TikTok and sharing that with a friend or with a family member, and then conversing about the topic privately rather than jumping in the comment section. But I will go into more detail on what good looks like and how to track these metrics a little bit later. What's working? It's not one size fits all. It's completely different. It's actually really difficult, like, because people will come to me and say, oh, what's working? I want to do this and I want to copy this, but I can't give a straight answer as to what's working. And what's working now probably won't work in a few weeks' time because it is so fast paced and is constantly different. But what does ring true throughout everything is authenticity and connection. So letting our human truth shine through every single piece of content. And once you do have a piece of content that goes really well, it's important to take note of that and then double down and keep doing that over and over again, because, if something's working, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, and I think that's really good for our founders as well too, because early on, that may be one of the key things that you do have is you as an individual and your reason behind starting a business and starting a brand there, and it's there's no barrier for that there other than sharing your own personal story that's taken you here too. So something that they can lean into heavily.
Yeah, completely. Like it's the easiest thing to talk to and arguably the most important thing. In terms of the different platforms, I highly recommend choosing one and getting really good at it to start. There's no point, placing all your eggs in all of the baskets and then seeing no return. You can't be everywhere, because if you're everywhere trying to talk to everyone, you'll end up talking to no one. So I always say, play to your own strengths in terms of what platforms inside and out, what you spend the most amount of time on, and then where your audience is already hanging out. But just generally for like the differences between the platforms and how they work. TikTok is big for discovery because we get served content in the For You page based on what we're interacting with, not just people that we're following. Instagram is really good for trust because it's on the opposite side of that. We're getting served content from people that we do follow. So you're constantly showing up in your followers' feed, and it allows for multiple different touch points, hence why this is very important for trust. LinkedIn, obviously, authority, and then X for conversation. I don't like giving a recommendation depending on what industry you're in, whether you're B2B or B2C. I think you should definitely play to what makes the most sense for you and what you're most confident in. But generally, B2B and professional services, LinkedIn. E-commerce, specifically if you have like a team or a face behind the brand, I'd say TikTok is the priority, and then complementing that with Instagram. But say me, for myself, I'm B2B, but I'm not on LinkedIn, and I probably won't be. I just honestly, I don't really like it that much. And although my audience might hang out there, I run social media accounts, predominantly TikTok and Instagram. So why wouldn't I showcase my strengths on the platforms that I'm the most confident in and the strongest in? I could absolutely share like the same content that I do on LinkedIn, but just for me personally, it doesn't resonate with who I am, and I'm not confident in it, which is why I stick to Instagram and TikTok over LinkedIn or X, for example.
Yeah. So do you think that, I guess, choosing in terms of priorities, it's what you're most comfortable with, especially when you're starting out, versus necessarily even where all of your audience is going to be? I'm sure that there's some, exceptions to that rule, but it's just choosing what you know best and really leaning into that comfortability to begin with.
Yeah, for sure. That's exactly why I'm not on LinkedIn. It's not my strongest skill set. Mine's definitely, creating videos and editing them in a way that I know is going to perform, which is why I choose to do that. And once I'm strong enough and I'm happy with the results that I'm seeing on both Instagram and TikTok, for sure, like I could look at, reposting onto LinkedIn, but I think it's whatever you're the most comfortable with. And don't feel like you need to be somewhere just because people say that you should be. Like everyone's like, oh, you should be on TikTok. Yeah, you should be. But if you're just starting out, like dip your toe in first and get used to how it feels to show up online consistently, because it's hard and it's scary, and you got to do what you're most comfortable with. In terms of organic versus paid, I've said organic a fair bit. Organic is what I specialize in. It is what you see when you're scrolling through your phone. It's content without spend behind it. So organic creates the demand, and then paid captures it. On organic channels, we don't want to be sold to. No one wants to be sold to, full stop. We're really sick of it, and we can tell when we are being sold to. The purpose of us, opening our phones is we want to escape from the life that we're living. We want to be entertained. We want to be inspired. We want to learn something. We want to change our state of being, whether we realize it or not. That is our reason for opening these platforms. We don't want to open it to someone saying, hey, my business is great, buy from me. Like, why? Like, no one actually cares about you. We need to give them a reason to care. And that's how we do that, through the organic channels. So that's where we want to, I know I've said connecting a lot. We want to connect to the level where we can forge a parasocial relationship. Parasocial relationship has become really popular recently, and it's basically just the strong affiliation that a person has to your brand because they see a part of themselves in it. They find identity in your brand. We want to be in the know. We want to be a part of something, and it really comes down to the whole point of social media and why it started was to have connection, but online. So yes, organic, all about building that brand awareness, the affiliation, but not selling. Paid, on the other hand, is when we have a piece of content and we put spend behind it in order to convert and make a sale. We still don't want to be sold to, even though we're like consuming these ads. we know when we're being sold to. So again, you can't say, oh, buy from me because of XYZ. You need to sell subtly. And it's a very deep psychological process. And it's honestly an art form. Creating content for ads is an art form. We have to play into, someone's fears, their desires, it's their problems, suggesting you as a solution. But it's done so subtly in a way that you're convincing your audience to, take the step and part with their money. It's more so, that great mix of the emotional and rational sides of your brains. They're working together there in order to produce an outcome from your audience. It's also great because the way that like the back end of Meta works is they'll keep targeting your audience over and over again. And depending on what campaigns you're running with what different content, they're probably going to be served like 5 different pieces of content from the one campaign. They're obviously seeing you over and over again until they're convinced enough to make a purchase.
With this as well, is it so with organic content, you can also be putting ad spend behind it, correct? And is that then boosting the total? That's boosting, I guess, broader brand awareness. That's for distribution. Then you have, I guess, specific ads whereby someone can click on that and go through to a purchase link kind of immediately. Is that sort of the separate, like separation between the two in that way?
Yeah, completely. You can absolutely put spend behind an organic post, like on, say, Instagram, you can boost a post, but the capabilities are limited because you either have to choose between like, oh, I want more reach, so more views, more likes, more follows, etc. Whereas in the paid campaigns, yeah, you can have a direct link to sale, so it's easier. It just like removes the different steps where someone would have to go to your website and then find the product that they want. It's just like, oh, here's the product that we're talking about. Here's the link to purchase. You can absolutely put spend behind the organic. 9 times out of 10, I don't recommend doing that just because once social platforms see that you're willing to part with your money and boost your organic content, they'll want to keep getting more money from you. So they'll like make your results drop. So not great in the long run, but yeah, you absolutely can do it. And if something performs well organically, usually it's going to perform well in like a paid campaign as well. So with like a lot of our clients will save the posts that do well organically, share that with their ads manager, and then their ads manager will put it into like a proper campaign on like Meta or something like that, and it does well too.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really interesting about the not boosting your organic and to get that reduced, I guess, ROI.
Yeah, I get quite angry when I see that my clients have gone in and put spend behind their posts, and I'm like, you've just undoing all the hard work that we've done. In terms of what you should be doing at each tier, again, there's no one size fits all for this, and it really depends on what your goals are, whether you want to go quite aggressive with your marketing or not as aggressive. But this is kind of what I would recommend. $0 a month, obviously organic. I would be pumping organic socials as much as possible. Founder content does really well because it allows us to, hear your story, why you've started this. We can connect with you on that deeper level by hearing, why we should care about this. And then obviously focusing on community, that in itself, usually sharing founder content and more about your own story will help with that community there and bringing us in on the journey of what you're doing. At 1K a month, I would still always be going heavy on organic, but then using the best performing content as ads. Like I just said before, we will save all of our best performing content organically and share it with our clients' ads managers, and then they'll put spend behind that. But not too heavy on the paid just yet. Still organic being the number one focus. At 10K a month, when you obviously have a little bit more money to play with, we're focusing on organic always. I'd probably increase the amount of creatives you've got running in your campaigns. For the paid ad side of things, that's when I'd be working with creators, be it influencers or micro creators, working with UGC creators to produce ad content for you. UGC creators are just normal people like myself who are good at editing and filming content. We will film, edit the content, and give it back to you. We don't post it on our own platform, but we supply you with the content to then use however you like, whether it's organically or in a paid ad campaign. And it just helps with social proof. And then I would double down on what's working in a paid capacity, or like testing different hooks, testing different CTAs, and everything that is proving well, engage more creators, say, to follow the exact same format and keep going over and over again. And then I just would increase on all of the creators, the volume, like the bigger you get.
And on that, I guess, creators and UGC side, do you have recommendations of like how to find these? Does House of Perception sometimes help find, some high performing creators that they feel would be good fits as well too?
Mm-hmm. We've been doing a lot more of that recently, because to the untrained eye, it's very like hard to find someone who's actually good at what they do. So if you do have like the budget, I'd probably recommend working with an agency or someone or a freelancer who knows what good looks like when it comes to a content creator's skills. Um, but other than that, literally just scrolling through TikTok or Instagram, UGC has become a lot more popular. So a lot of people have started their own UGC accounts where they give you examples of their work with other brands, so you can vet them that way. But there's a lot of people who are claiming to be, a great UGC creator, but if I'm being honest, they're not. So it's very hard, and you don't want to be spending, your hard-earned money on these creators and not getting what you paid for. Like I've done that plenty of times with clients, where we've been promised the world and we've not seen, a piece of work that we're happy with, and it would have just been better for us to do it ourselves. So it is very tricky. So I would recommend, working with someone if that's a possibility. But if not, testing and learning, and doing what works best for you. In terms of the framework for creating your own content, this is how I map out my own content, all of our clients' content. It's pretty broad, but the way that you answer all of these questions is what allows you to shine through, if you will. We always start with that comprehensive strategy deck with all of my clients, and this is what we'll run through when we build that out, because there's no point posting anything if it doesn't serve a purpose. So this is the most important thing to do before you hit record or before you upload anything to any social platform. The first being knowing who you're talking to. What does your audience want? What do they care about? What are their fears? What are their desires? What do they believe? What do they need? Getting super clear on what all of that is, and knowing your audience inside and out, and what motivates them to do anything in life. I'll always, think I've got an amazing answer whenever I answer one of these questions, but I always then go, why? Go deeper. Why is that? Until you're so confident that you know the psyche of your audience inside and out. From there, we will choose around 3 to 4 content pillars. Content pillars are categories that your content always falls into. They just remove guesswork. So if you're going, oh, I don't have content planned for the next fortnight, rather than going, oh, well, I saw this, I really liked this person posted this, or maybe I should post a BTS vlog that doesn't work within your strategy. You can just go back to these content pillars that have been designed just for you and and your audience too. So for me, for example, and for House of Perception, our content pillars are case studies or our client wins, which is where we break down in multiple different ways. It might be like a carousel on Instagram, or it could be a reel, or even like a story where we talk about wins we've had for our clients and how we've achieved those results. the people behind the brand. So, like sharing stories and glimpses into my life and the team's life, and education, which helps us establish our authority. So, education on social media, on marketing, on content, on hooks, on everything. You can choose like these pillars are like call them buckets. They're little buckets that everything falls into. And within the buckets, there are so many different ideas that you can pull out and run with as well. Um, so I think, yeah, education is probably the best way that I can explain that. Education is quite broad, but then I can go into the education behind why you need social media, the education behind TikTok and Instagram and the difference between all the platforms, education behind what is a hook, why a hook works, 5 hooks that you need to use. But it all falls under that one education pillar. Next, we need to ensure that every post does one thing. These are the 4 core motivations of anyone. They want to either be educated, they want to be inspired, they want to be entertained, or they want to connect. Every single post that you share, no matter what platform it is on, needs to do at least one thing. And these 4, it all comes back to these 4 things. We need to give people a reason to care about what you're doing and what you're publishing, because inherently, like we don't unless you give us a reason to. You need to make everything about the audience and the value that they'll take away from it, not what you think the world should know. So I see a lot of people, say influencers, for example, they're like, oh, come spend the day with me, or here are my 5 favorite things about the beauty industry, or it's all about them. And quite frankly, I don't care. No one cares. Like, give me a reason to care. Whereas if they'd said, here are 5 things that you should care about, like in the beauty industry, everything needs to be about the other person on the other side of the screen. No one cares about you. I know it sounds harsh, and a lot of people don't like when I say that, but we don't. We need to be playing to the other person. What's going to make the other person on the other side of the screen feel something? And then once you've nailed those 3 steps, you get to creating. I recommend batching everything. That's what we do with our clients. We might sit down for, say, 2 hours at the start of the month, go through the strategy, aka the 3 previous questions, build out a content plan. That might look like deciding, we're going to do 3 reels and 4 carousels, and then figuring out what they're all going to be about, say, like education on hooks or a client win reel case study. And then writing all of those scripts for the reels and then shooting it all in the one session. And then once obviously that's live, we're again doubling down on what works, because there's no reason for you to reinvent the wheel if something's working. Just keep going over and over again. I'd usually say commit to 3 posts per week, I feel is quite achievable. That's what we will say, like, minimum for most of our clients. And that's exactly what we do. It'll probably take us like 10 hours in total to plan, shoot, edit, and schedule everything, like a month's worth of content for clients. And then when we know that something works well, we're going to iterate on what's doing well. It could be a hook that you've got that's worked really well, a storyline that you've got that's worked really well, a reel structure that's worked well. Say, for example, you've got a reel that's worked really well. Okay, cool. How can I break that apart and talk to that over and over again? Can I do it as a carousel? Can I do it as a shorter reel? Just finding different ways to talk to the one thing that's already performed well. It cuts out a lot of hard work, if I'm being honest. Consumers and the platforms also like predictability and repeatability. So that's why repeatable content series have become so popular recently, is because, well, we know what we're going to get and the algorithm knows what you're going to get. So it gets pushed in the algorithm and out to more people.
And with that as well, so maybe just a couple of things. If you have, for example, created some content at the beginning of the month and in week 1 you found that there's a specific item there or a specific post there that's performed really well, would you wait until you've kind of posted the remainder of the content for that month to iterate on it again? Or would you be looking to revisit that, I guess, immediately and kind of capitalize iteratively as soon as possible?
If it's something that is like bound by time, like it's maybe it's like a pop culture moment. Say if it was something about like the FIFA World Cup and we know that it's done well, absolutely, I'd be jumping on that and going, okay, how can I do this 5 times over? If it's something that's specific to your business, it doesn't have, a timeline. It should be an evergreen sort of thing. So yes, when they're like time sensitive, absolutely. But and it also comes down to the capacity and whether or not you're able to, jump on something that you've seen has worked well when you've already batched out another 3 weeks. But yes, when it's time sensitive, absolutely I would. And I also think it's important to leave room where possible for those sorts of things, or even like jumping on trends where you can. But yeah, I think it comes down to what sort of a capacity you will have to do so.
Yeah, awesome. And maybe on that as well, like, do you find or do you have any tools that you can recommend? Because I guess it's even one of the questions in here is like balancing your marketing and sales
Mm,
and product can be kind of time consuming or it can sound like a lot.
mhm.
Is there any sort of tools that you might recommend for people trying to get into this and I guess automate or optimize their time in this area as much as possible?
Um, in terms of like scheduling and publishing, you can schedule content so it goes live without you even having to think about it or touch it again. We use a platform called Rella. It's amazing. It has AI built into it, so it can like review the performance of all of your posts, gives you recommendations on what you should be doing more of, what you should be doing less of, and it allows you to post to literally every platform that there is. It's awesome. Um, and in terms like for minimizing the time that you spend on that, I would, yeah, batch everything out, shoot it all, like plan for one day, block off one day a month, get everything sorted, like write it all out, shoot it all, edit it all, pop it into a platform like Rella where you're able to caption it as well, set a time for it to go live, and then you're done and you don't have to think about it again for another like 3 weeks. I know a lot of people have been using Claude to build different integrations, like they're connecting their own social accounts and getting them to run the report. Rella, the company I spoke about, basically does the exact same thing. I definitely think you can use AI to assist you with ideas and help you out with scripts, but one thing you can't replace and one thing AI can't replace is human truth and connection. And like we don't rely on AI a lot. I actually hate when the girls use it to come up with, concepts because I'm like, no, like people are paying us for our brains. Our brains are more creative and they're more, independent than AI who's spitting out the same thing for everyone. So while we use it, to stimulate some ideas, everything you need is already inside of your brain. Another very important part of content and social media is your hooks, your pacing, and your structure. I could honestly talk about this for hours. It is such a huge topic, but I won't go into too much depth because we probably don't have enough time to do so. Um, but it is one of the most important things if like when it comes to video content specifically, and as we all know, video's king. Um, if you have a like awesome idea, but it's not presented correctly or a way that is native to the platform that you're sharing it on, it won't do well. It'll miss the mark and it'll be a waste of your time. Um, the biggest takeaway in all of this is that it really is a psychology game. So those questions that I had, I think was number one on the framework, is knowing your audience inside and out and constantly playing to what they're actually going to care about. How would they like to see this show up in their feed? And what's actually going to stop their scroll? Why are they going to care about what you're doing? Hooks, if you didn't know, they can either be a verbal hook, a written hook, or audio, no, a visual, sorry. Visual being maybe I'm jumping into frame like this to get your attention off guard. Maybe like my phone is upside down, they flip it around, and you're like, oh, it just breaks the pattern that's where someone's been like scrolling for so long and gets them to go, oh, wait, what's this? Audio is obviously the words you're saying, or maybe it's like a sound effect or a piece of music. And then text hook is a text hook that shows us it's on like the first screen when you open up either like a carousel or a reel, and it basically just gives us insights into what this piece of content is about and why we should care or why we should stick around. In terms of getting your first 1,000 users, this is a little video of me that I did for one of my clients. They're an app soon to launch. They're in the fashion tech space. And so I've just gone through this process of figuring out how we're going to get their first 1,000 users. The biggest thing, consistency, just showing up again and again, making strangers care about what you're doing, entertaining, inspiring, connecting with them, those core motivations that I mentioned. There's no one size fits all approach. It's really just figuring out what works for you and doubling down on that. For some like general ones could be, documenting the journey of what you're doing. That's explaining, why your business exists, how you're working to solve this problem, the ins and outs of the industry that you're operating in. Say if it's a platform, talking me through like an app, talking me through each part of it and why I need this in my life and what's it solving for me and how you're going with the build of that. Doing something outside of the box. So for Utopia, for example, we were interviewing people in the street. Street interviews do really well because people are so nosy, and no matter like what client we've done it with, they always do really well because people just want to know what's going on in everyone else's lives. And complementing your top of funnel activities. Top of funnel is those awareness pieces with middle of funnel and bottom of funnel, which is our consideration and conversion, or our trust and sales pieces, to give people a reason to stick around. So if someone lands on your platform, I don't just want to see trends. We don't just want to see you jumping on all of these different trends, because that doesn't tell me anything about who you are and what you do and why I should care about you. I also want it to be complemented with your values, why you exist, why should I care about you? It needs to be an ecosystem of all of these pieces working together. I'd absolutely double down on video because it has the most amount of reach on both, like any platforms really. It generates more connection, like me talking to someone and seeing someone, the way I move my face, the way I talk, it's human. There's another human on the other side of the screen, which is super important for connection. Highly recommend interviewing people. That's a little tactic that we do with everyone. It does so well. I think I've got some results on what we did for Utopia. I do. I'll go through them in a minute. In terms of good content, I mentioned before, we always used to measure likes and comments. They don't matter anymore, that we call them vanity metrics. We're always looking at reach, saves, and shares. So reach is how many people saw your content. That generally means that you have a good hook. Saves and shares means that people took value from what you said, so much so that it's caused them to take action. While the action might not be a sale, it's still an action and means that they're investing in your brand. The diagnostic, if you have high reach and low saves and shares, your hook was good, but the value wasn't enough for the audience. They didn't take enough from what you were saying. So there's so many different ways that you can read into the results that you're getting. It's not just, oh, cool, this video got like 10K, sweet. Like there's so many different facets to that, and we can diagnose it and swap out little things to make sure that all of your content is getting better and better and better. Tanky is that e-com client that I spoke about initially. We've had multiple viral videos for them, which is insane because it's very hard to do this day and age. The reason why I think they worked is because we have been jumping on trends. So we're getting the most amount of, we're piggybacking off the trends, and it's really good for eyeballs, getting eyeballs on your content and your brand. I'll play this one here. This is the first video we posted for them that hit, I think it was 1 million, maybe 1.5 million organically. Super simple. And the reason why it did well is because it's short, it's fast paced. We obviously had that on-screen textbook, like let's make mugs on tap. The visual hook we've used is the tanky pouring the product. And it's got a fun upbeat audio in the background as well. It did insane. This is the piece of content that changed the trajectory of their business. Because that did so well, we doubled down on it and have done it over and over again, with the most recent one getting 5.6 mil. We've done the exact same like setup, literally just starting with the pouring, making the drink, putting it in the tanky, pouring it, cheersing over and over again. And it never fails us, or hasn't failed us so far. The other one I've got is a piece of UGC content that I created for the brand. I'll let it play.
Everybody needs to know about this. A mini portable keg that keeps your drinks cold, fresh, and more importantly on tap. It just makes so much sense. It's called a tanky, and it's quite literally my new best friend.
I literally filmed that in my kitchen with like no plan. It took me 10 seconds to film. Popped it together really quickly, posted it, and it got 500,000 views, I believe. Again, like this was one of the early pieces of content that I created for the brand, and it did so well. The reason why this worked is because, again, short and sweet, and there was a person talking face to camera. I'm a 24-year-old girl who has her own lingo, and I let it come through in that. I wasn't, pretending to be someone that I'm not. I'm just saying, how sick is this thing? And people can relate to that and connect to that. And people love seeing other people use a product. It contributes to that social proof factor that I was talking about before. Another example, I've got another client of mine. They are a Pilates education company. This is a different format. It's obviously a carousel. It did insanely well. It got 231K. It reached 8,700 people. That generated almost 400 profile visits and 213 follows. As you can see, the top sources of the views here were from the explore page, which means it was sitting in that explore page in Instagram, not coming up in people's feeds. The reason why it worked is because it's so simple. It's not even funny. Like visually, it's simple. It's easy to follow. It's a strong hook. The payoff instantly. 3 Q swaps that every instructor could know. When I was building it, I was thinking, okay, what's important to an instructor? What's something that's going to make them go, oh, and call them out almost? And I was like, well, Q swaps, like how to improve their queuing, rather than saying how to improve your queuing. The reason why this would have outperformed it, because it's got the number. Anything with like a number where it's like 5 hacks to do this or 3 Q swaps, it always does well, because oh, well, there's only 3 things, so I'm going to swipe across and I'll see 3 things. Like I know exactly what to expect from this piece of content. And I designed it for saves and shares. So you can see down here, I've got, save this post. And it got 593, 156 shares. So it definitely achieved the results that we were after in this one. Utopia is the fashion tech client that I was talking about just before. Our goal was to get as many eyeballs on the page as possible and build brand affiliation ahead of their launch. So we did plenty of street interviews, jumped on cultural moments, because it's a fashion app. I think we were able to jump on, Euro summer trends, like what people are wearing in Europe at the moment, or what people wore to the Devil Wears Prada, like premiere. So it's a very easy one to jump on those cultural moments. This one here, I literally just asked.
Run us through what you're wearing today. Oh, today I'm wearing, I actually think I got this in some boutique down the south coast. I'm not actually sure.
And she just runs us through her outfit. And this one got 39K, 18 saves and 27 shares, sorry. Again, because people are nosy, like that doesn't really provide much value, if you will, but people wanted to know what she was wearing and they took some form of interest in what we had to share. This is what I'd call a top of funnel or awareness driven piece. It doesn't necessarily say anything about the platform or what the platform stands for, but it was designed to get eyeballs, and that it did. This one, on the other hand, was designed to provide value for their audience. I'll play a little bit for you.
Probably going to regret spelling this, but here are the unknown brands that all the cool girls are gatekeeping. First is Solomusa. Think elevated basics, neutral tones, and pieces that always look expensive. Next is
and I just went through
probably going to regret
random
spelling
like brands that people might not know, not like less mainstream brands. This one ended up getting only 3K views. But if you look at the saves and the shares, which are our most important metrics, they've outperformed this one that got heaps more views because they've provided more value for the audience. The reason why this worked is because obviously it's a value piece. The hook taps into that psychological, piece of someone's identity. It's like, oh, I want to be a cool girl. I want to be considered cool. I want to be a part of that club. Gatekeeping is a really strong word in socials. It's like, appeals to our FOMO. We all want to know the best things and what's going on. And so that is why, in my opinion, I think this piece did really well. But yeah, I guess that was a bit of an overview. It definitely is a long game. Consistency is the most important thing, but it's like going to the gym, just keep showing up, just keep doing what you can, and it'll pay off eventually.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ebony. We're a little bit over time for the Q&A, but maybe you and I'll save some of these questions and we can, save them and get them answered as well too, and share out with the...
Absolutely.
But if anyone wants to get in touch with you on, I guess, their social strategy, where would probably be the best place to reach out to you?
Definitely through my email, but if you jump onto my website, you'll be able to see, things we've done for everyone, learn a little bit more about us, and then my email is on there as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ebony. Thanks everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. This will be posted on YouTube and Apollo, and we'll go from there. But have a great rest of your day, and we'll be in touch. See ya.